These books right here are some of my prized possessions. These are glue books. But what's a glue book? What are they for? Why would someone spend the time making one? How can they be meaningful? And how can they help you explore and encourage your interest in paper arts? That's what I'm talking about in today's video. I'm also going to show you some of the simplest ways to start a glue book using things that you probably already have at home. A couple of weeks ago, I made a video about junk journals. What's the purpose of a junk journal? Why would someone make one? And my goodness, I got a ton of comments on that video. People sharing what junk journals meant to them, how they use them, how it helps them to deal with things like grief, and so on. So today I wanted to make a similar type of video that I did for junk journals, this time talking about glue books. I love glue books. I am working in a glue book all the time, at least once a week. So I wanted to create a video with questions and answers to kind of explain things about what's interesting about glue books. Why would someone spend time doing them, right? And these are all questions that I've heard or that people have asked me. So the first question is, what is a glue book? At the most basic level, a glue book is something that you glue things into. And you turn something that already exists into a glue book. For example, a blank journal, you can turn it into a glue book. A junk journal, like this one, you can turn into a glue book. What kinds of things do you glue in a glue book? It's totally up to you is the generic answer, but let me give you a few examples of what I mean. Say that you have a stack of Better Homes and Gardens magazine, and you look through them and you cut out all the images of roses or pots with flowers in them. You can use those images for a dedicated glue book on that topic. I've seen glue books where each page is dedicated to a letter of the alphabet. Some glue books are dedicated to a particular color, like this glue book is. Here I just have the color red, and I have lots of pages and images and things that I put in this glue book that have a red theme to it. These are kind of fun because I am constantly building, working on this glue book, and I've started it like 2-3 years ago. So it's not something that needs to be done all at once. As a matter of fact, I have this little box where I randomly put in red things that I come across. So I could take out my box whenever I want to and do another page in this red glue book. If you're gluing papers on pages, is it like a scrapbook? No, it's not. A scrapbook has a specific function. It's when you assemble a series of pages in a particular order, mostly in a time order, from start to finish. Say, for example, your child or grandchild is in kindergarten. If you create a scrapbook, it's from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year. A glue book, on the other hand, is more random. It doesn't have to be based on a particular order. So it's a bunch of papers glued on pages. How can this be meaningful so that someone would choose to do this? At the most basic level, the things that you glue into a glue book are paper. Now there are other things you can glue in like fabrics and ribbons and other flat items, but I'm talking about paper here. Paper as a material is so interesting, and there are people who love the physical attributes of paper. There's vintage paper, so old paper, for example. There's decorative paper, colored paper, patterned paper, handmade paper, eco-dyed paper, rice paper, right? There's so many different kinds of paper, so many creative ways that paper can be used. And there are so many things that you can do to paper. You can write on it, you can paint it, you can rubber stamp it, you can stencil it, you can emboss it. There's so many ways to decorate paper. So if you're somebody who loves paper, glue books can be a great playground for exploring ways to highlight and celebrate paper and what you do to it. So I just talked about the physical attributes of paper, but now I want to talk about paper with messaging and with meaning. Some papers have images and photos of things that you love or things that are interesting to you. Maybe it's of a location that you would love to travel to and visit. Maybe you like vintage papers and ephemera and things that remind you of a bygone era. You get to choose the papers that are interesting to you and use those in a glue book. Using papers that have a meaning to you makes sense, but some people seemingly buy stickers and random washi tape and paper from paper pads and just stick them into a book. Isn't that kind of pointless? No, not pointless. The better way to think about it is this. People can derive joy and happiness out of the process of doing something rather than the finished product. Say, for example, adult coloring books. These have kind of maybe made a comeback in the last 5-10 years where you see a lot of these types of books being sold in stores and markets. It's not the finished coloring book page that is prized. It's the enjoyment somebody gets from working and devoting and paying attention to that page that they're working on and being able to close out the rest of the world, to escape a little bit and to focus on something. There's an enjoyment in that. There's a peace that can be found in that. And that peace of mind is really valuable. Sometimes, oftentimes, more so than the finished coloring book at the end. So this can be one reason for doing glue books. Is that pointless? No, it's not. It's actually therapeutic. What do you do with a glue book when you're done with it? So often glue books tend to be personal. When you flip through the pages, you can remember where you found some of the images. You can remember your mood that you were in when you were creating it. You can also remember where you were at a certain stage in your life. In some of my older glue books, I have art that my kids did or samples of their handwriting. These things are kind of precious to me. In the last several years, I've created glue books that are dedicated to collages that I've done with vintage papers and vintage ephemera. So flipping through the pages, I can see combinations that I used of papers that are very interesting. I can see it gives me examples of layers, how I used different kinds of ephemera. I just get a ton of ideas when I flip through these pages. Some glue books are never done. I enjoy the flexibility of being able to go in years later and add something to a glue book, particularly if I have a specific theme for a special glue book. So glue books that are assembled with rings are really cool because you can just keep on adding papers the same size as the base, as the substrate, like this, for example, and just keep on adding. The other good thing about ring binding is that you can change the order around. Obviously, you can open these up, and then if you want to move things into a particular order, you have that option. All right, so now I do want to demonstrate some of the simplest ways you can start and create a glue book. The simplest thing to do is to use something that you already have. Say, for example, you have school notebooks that you don't need anymore. You can tear out the pages if you want to that have notes or written things on it, but better yet, you're going to be gluing things on top of those pages, so it doesn't matter what's there and you don't need to tear anything out. Another example is to take an old planner that you don't need and use this as a foundation for your glue book. Here's another example. Do you have a hole punch and perhaps some rings that you could use to bind these papers? You can use any kinds of paper that you have. This is just some graph paper. This was an old envelope. This was a scrap that I just kind of folded over and I gave it some height so that when I close it, there's kind of something that looks like a tab up on the top. Here are some postcards I have. Another postcard here. So you can choose whatever paper that you have at home. Here I've started with some collages on here, and I can keep on adding papers. This is a very small glue book, but I can just keep on going. If you have a little journal that is just floating around your house, this is another kind of glue book that you could do. I tore out some of the pages and then reinforced the spine with some washi tape. This is another very simple kind of glue book. The method that I like to use again and again for creating glue books is this metal coil binding. I have this machine called Zutter Bind It All. It just wraps these coils, punches the holes and then wraps the coils and pinches them in. It's not my favorite method, but I have the thing, and so I just put it to use. I want to use up the coils. And I just kind of started to develop this set, and now I have a little collection of these glue books with this type of coil method. And inside I have most of my pages, which are 4 by 6, 4 inches wide by 6 inches tall. I have found that I'm just the most comfortable with this size. So once you figure out what size you are comfortable with, then you can make all glue books, or as many glue books as you want in that size. I've also included sometimes little cards, playing cards, or other small interesting things that would go in the glue book. I use a lot of postcards, of course. I like to sometimes keep the original side and then just collage on the back. I have really thin paper sometimes. I have cardboard, maybe from cereal boxes or other food packaging. What else? This is a card, right? Another postcard. All right, let me see what else. What other interesting things I can show you to give you some ideas. This is food packaging. And a small little coin envelope. What other small bits do I have? Here's another envelope. I love using these. This was just kind of a little, I don't even know, little note paper. Here is a paint chip. These are kind of thick, so this is a fun thing to put into a little glue book. What's fun about these paint chips is that you can put them in and then create a collage or your page that has the theme of whatever color that you use. This is a funny little thing. Somebody sent me in the mail this tiny envelope with punches, colorful punches, and that was really fun to stick on this page. And I think, is that about it? Interesting things in here. Patterned paper is good to use because it's also a little bit thick sometimes, and it doesn't matter, the size. It doesn't need to be the full page. It can just be a portion, so that's a good idea. Anything else? Here's another playing card. I'm trying to look for something that is kind of a standout or unique, but I think you get the idea. Here's another card, a bingo card. And that is about it, I would say. So was this helpful? Can you see why people would spend time working on a glue book? If you enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button so that it can spread to other people. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comments, of course. Or if you're somebody who creates glue books, let me know what kind of glue books you make. Put them in the comments so that other people can see as an example of what you can do with a glue book. Now, if you're looking for ideas of what to put in your glue books, check out this video on 8 inspirational themes to use in your glue books. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you the next time.